Practical parenting, bedtime boundaries, and your child's sleep patterns. This is Dr. Brandy Marks, biblical licensed mental health counselor. Let's look at a problem checklist before you start establishing corrections to problems you're having. Let's look at what the problems are specifically. Always best to know specifically what the problem is. The child is unable to fall asleep promptly at a designated bedtime. Maybe you're up with them repeatedly throughout the night. Depends upon the age of the child. If they're a newborn baby being nursed, yeah, probably every 2 hours. Okay, they have frequent problems like sleep terrors. I have birds that have night frights periodically. I have to get up, turn the lights on, coo at them or whatever, and get them to calm down. Sleepwalking, bedwetting. Okay, maybe they have a problem with snoring, which wakes them up or keeps you awake. They awake either too early at night, too early in the morning or during the night, or too late in the morning. You can't get them to get up on time. They're irritable or sleepy during the day. Typical sleep requirements for young children from the newborn to 12 months of age, usually 16 to 14 hours, even if that's broken up with nursing or bottle times, feeding times. 12 to 24 months of age, 14 to 12 hours. And it drops incrementally from there on. 2 to 10 years of age, 12 to 10 hours. 10 to 18 years of age, 10 to 8 hours. And as an adult, usually they say 8 hours. But those can be very individual. I have one son, even as an adult, he likes his 9 to 10 hours of sleep at night. I'm a 9-hour-a-night person. Rarely do I get up after only 7 hours. It just depends. So what is your child's age? And how many hours do they sleep at night on a routine basis? Typically, generally. Have you, excuse me, if you haven't taken a look at that to keep track of it, it would be a really good idea to do that, to keep a record for a week. Okay, bedtime should be pleasant without anger, frustration, irritability, conflict, or power struggles with your child or anybody else. Excuse me. It's a good idea. You don't need to do anything, of course. It's a good idea to have a nightly bedtime routine. Routines can include when they go change into their pajamas, ideally before they go to bed, of course, brush their teeth, then get into bed, and maybe mom or dad reads them a story. Always have a prayer time, of course, but the reading them a story will depend upon certain factors. We've already learned about consequences, so that's what the bedtime story might include. Okay, bedtime needs. Assess how much time the child needs to get ready and into bed. This includes all of the routine, and maybe you haven't considered this in the past. Maybe you have. The pajamas, how long does it take them? Every child's a little bit different. They're not all going to be exactly the same. It may take them, one kid may just say, oh, bedtime? Okay, they're in the pajamas in less than a minute, for pity's sakes. Okay, 5 minutes anyway. Others may take 10 to 20 minutes because they're dilly-dalliers. Personality changes. Brush their teeth, 5 to 10 minutes, depending upon whether they're doing it with you, whether they're more regimented, or whether they're more casual about it, and they like to talk to themselves and sing while they're brushing their teeth. That kid may take 10 minutes. Get into bed, 5 to 10 minutes, while they dilly-dally around, or whether they immediately go to bed. Some kids' personality types are dilly-dalliers. Others are more regimented in their style. Story time, 10 to 20 minutes, depends upon you, the story, and what you choose to establish. The total time may be 60 minutes or more. Decide ahead with each child and then stick with it. Now, if you have 1 or 2 children, this is fairly easy to do. If you have 5, 6, 7, or I have a niece with 12 children, of course, most of them are grown by now on varying ages, but I'm sure she did it a heck of a lot different. Bedtime. Every child has different needs. Don't expect all of your children to be exactly the same. They are not, and they are not going to be. If they need 60 minutes to get ready and 20 minutes for a story time, 10 minutes for prayer, then the total time will be 90 minutes. You think, oh my gosh, that's not possible. We can't do that. Well, it depends upon how you do it. If bedtime is 9 p.m., then they have to start the routine at 7:30 p.m. So you have 90 minutes. The first night, walk through the routine with them just to practice it. You may have to practice it for a couple of nights. After that, you say nothing until about 8:30. and no reminders. You don't say to them, okay, it's 7:30, time for bed. No, that you already practice with them. They know the routine. You wait, 8 o'clock or 8:30, no reminders. If they're ready for bed on time, you read them a story of an appropriate length. If they are not ready, help them finish immediately and get into bed, and you do not read them a story. The storybook time is when they've done everything correctly and are in bed on time. Do not argue with them about it. They know what the routine is. They want to see if you will keep your word. They are testing you. Build trust, be firm, and stick to the rule like glue. Bedtime. Always be sure you have time to pray no matter what. If they haven't done the routine and been ready, there's no story time, but you may pray with them and say, Lord, help them to do better tomorrow night. Always with a positive focus. It helps children set priorities in the family and personal values with God at the top of your priorities, your family priorities. I say nothing about the planned activity like story time. Instead, they already know the rules, so stick with them. Instead, if they are not ready, do not say, if you had been ready on time, we could have, in that critical, judgmental manner. They already know that, so no mini lectures. Don't argue or lecture them, and don't blame them for not being ready. They know the reason already. Instead, positive, say firmly, there was not enough time, maybe tomorrow night. Period. There's no maybe tomorrow night if you're ready. Okay, just say no, there was not enough time, maybe tomorrow night. They already know the cause. They were dilly-dallying around and didn't get ready, or they were being rebellious and testing you to see if you would follow through. So no lectures or criticism. Bedtime should be a close family time. Remember, never go to bed angry. Instead, prayer, praises, and potential for a promising tomorrow. Okay, for a new day tomorrow. Okay, I've changed this obviously since I made this. A promising day tomorrow. Children need close personal time with their family, especially their parents. Television does not provide a warm time, neither does computer time. It can provide intellectual curiosity time, fun time, but that's not warm, close time, intimate contact, where you're talking to each other face to face. Nintendo does not provide a good time, or rather computer time. Bedtime is a good time to have close personal time with your children, asking them about their day and sharing your day with them. Briefly, sharing stories and reading can give that special needed time. Bedtime is a time of separation. They're going to be away from you during the night. Being alone may be frightening for some children, and you miss the chance for a loving and sharing time. A consistent schedule is essential for children with sleep problems. A consistent schedule by itself could solve the entire problem. Consistency during the day certainly solves a lot of parental problems. I know, I've raised 2 sons, 9 years apart. Each one of them was 100% different from the other. Night fears. Fears depend on the child's age, their emotional, physical development. I have 9 cockatiel birds. Now, my children didn't have night terrors. Some of my birds do. Others sit complacently through the problem when the others are screaming and flying about the cage. There's other birds that just sit there and watch what's going on. That's just the way it is. Certain birds are more prone to night terrors. Certain children are more prone to night terrors. But sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical development. Sometimes it's because of things that have happened in their past. Some events increase anxiety in a child. Anger, jealousy, aggression, death in the family or death of a friend, ideas about God, heaven, hell, vampires, demons, and monsters, if they're watching these kind of shows, depending upon their age and the child. Daily activities. During the day, these activities can make it easier for us to forget our fears. In the evening, when all is quiet and still, you're out of the room, anxiety and fear can surface when everything is quiet. It probably happens to you when you go to bed. If you have some anxieties you haven't resolved during the day, all of a sudden that stuff comes up and starts driving you crazy at bedtime or during the night. It does with children too. So relaxing, teaching them to deep breathe and relax helps. A quiet talk, a back rub, or a calming story, not a nighttime fearful story. Playing a favorite game, or other ways to help them relax, teaching them to meditate. My grandmother taught me the 23rd Psalm when I was just a kid. The Lord is my shepherd, I want for nothing. He makes me to lie down in clear, peaceful valleys. I can't even think of it now, but I do know it by heart. Okay. Faith, not fear, is the answer. This is a time for building their faith in God. Use children's Bible stories and prayer to help them calm down and trust that the Lord is with them. He guides them through the deep waters. Keep it simple with a children's Bible, not an adult Bible, and God forbid the King James. Now, there's still a lot of people from the older generation, or some new people, that love the King James. I appreciate the King James, but it's not my go-to Bible. And I love, by the way, I love children's Bibles. Story Bibles with pictures. They bring it to life, even for adults. Emphasize God's love and his patience and endurance with us, even when we get it wrong. He loves us. Don't terrify children with stories of damnation and hellfire. Enough of that for when they're older and maybe need a lesson in awesome fear. Okay, avoid threats of hell and damnation. You want your child to sleep all night. Sex abuse. Be careful to instill security in children who have gone through sex abuse. Any child who has been molested may have fears about darkness and aloneness. These are in particular, could be your own children, but in particular stepchildren, foster parents, adopted children, or adopted foster children. Know the potential problems and areas of safety for touching and hugging. Never touch below the shoulders or above the knees is a good rule, even for very young children. The key, chart the hours they sleep and wake up without difficulty. Use a chart. We'll look at that next. Start a new schedule. Cold turkey is not a good idea. Instead, decide on the sleep schedule. First, practice it on the first night or two. Then add the schedule gradually. Here's what you can do. A weekly schedule, 8 to 10 p.m. Mark down when did this child go to sleep? When did they settle in peacefully? Remember, one child says, well, he doesn't have to go to bed yet. His schedule's a little bit different than yours. This is your bedtime schedule. And get them as much in line as you can, of course, to keep it simpler for you. First, go over the schedule you've been using before you start the new schedule. Sit down with them, use a whiteboard if need be, or a big piece of drawing paper, and write out the plan. If you aren't using one, talk over what has been happening and the problems you've been having. Explain you are making changes in their bedtime routine, so it's easier for them and for you. Be honest with them. Show them the chart if you're using one, and explain how you will use that chart. What are you going to do with it? Reassure the child you want them to sleep well. It's not a punishment. We all feel better the next day when we've had a good night's sleep, and our dreams are better. Some children love dreams. Others that have nightmares, nighttime can be scary. A regular sleep routine can help their night terrors. Never threaten or punish children regarding their sleep habits. It only makes things worse. Try the schedule before anything else. Next, if bedtime is usually at 10 and you want an earlier bedtime, say 9 p.m., have bedtime at 10 minutes to 10 the first night. The next night, you started at 20 minutes till, and so on until you're at that 9 o'clock. It's best not to try going from 10 o'clock to 9 o'clock all in one fell swoop. It doesn't work too well for either of you. Okay, so, it would maybe take a whole week to get them into bed by 9 o'clock. But it's easier on you and the children. Keep track for a couple of weeks if you want to see how their sleep habits have changed before you start any change. You may decide after a closer look that no change is needed. Hey, this is really working. It's not that bad. Or you may get some ideas for making adjustments to the sleep schedule. Well, I hope this was helpful for you. This is Dr. Brandy Marks, Biblical Licensed Mental Health Counselor in Vancouver, Washington. And God bless. And we're going to look at, what's the name of it? I did this after, temper tantrums is what we're going to look at next week, and how to deal with them. God bless.